What's going on, everybody? It's Jeff here. Welcome back to the channel. AMC continuing to move higher, bouncing off that strong level of support just ahead of earnings. We're going to go over exactly where the stock stands. But before we do, I want to talk about another company that reported earnings yesterday and had a massive short squeeze today. There are some similarities between the two, and I want to give a quick comparison as AMC is set to report their earnings very, very shortly. Let's get right into it. First off, take a look at this beautiful uptrend all day long for AMC. If you look at the daily chart, we held that $35, $36 level very strong as we have before. We're seeing a little bit of resistance at the 50 moving average. A break of that gives room to about the $43, $44 level. Break of that is smooth sailing back into the 50s. And as you can see, earnings are just around the corner. Now let's talk about that other company today. And I hope you all saw this one. It was pretty amazing to see some of this, because it was fluctuating. Literally, you could see a $100 move in the span of about 2 minutes. But it is none other than Avis Car Rental. And at first glance, you might be thinking, okay, car rental, movie theater, what are the similarities? Well, think about these two sectors, these two companies, how badly they were hurt by COVID, the lockdowns. Nobody was traveling, just like nobody was going to the movie theaters. Okay, you couldn't be an indoor over a certain amount of people, but nobody was traveling, nobody was renting cars. All right, and now that traveling is started to kind of, come back a little bit, you've got the Ubers moving. And like I said, the car rental industry isn't one that is fully recovered, very similar to the movie theater industry. But here is even bigger point behind this. This is also a sector and a company that the shorts piled very heavily into, and another one that analysts were completely blown away on their expectations. Take a look at this article right here. Shares of Avis double in single day as huge earnings beat sends hedge fund shorts running. Car rental stock Avis surged Tuesday after the company reported a stronger than expected third quarter that sparked massive trading volume. And we're going to break down the charts very, very closely in just a minute, because this was not something that was a massive gap. It was a slow run up. And it got to the point that I've mentioned numerous times before, where the shorts just got to a position of, you know what, my risk is higher than my reward. I'm over leveraged. And it's going to be interesting to see when we look at some of the filings, how many margin calls had happened on this specific stock. The company reported 1074 in per share earnings for the third quarter, beating the estimate by more than $4. Revenue also topped expectations, an additional $1 billion in share buybacks for the company. Now let's take a look at exactly what happened. We'll zoom in for you. And as you can see, yesterday when the numbers came out, it was a little bit of a dip, and it came up to about, I think it was a high of about 187. And pre-market, there wasn't much happening. This didn't even come up on my scanners because the volume was low. And for the stock price, the gap wasn't there, and it opened pretty flat. And as we zoom in even further, you can see it wasn't strong out of the gate. It was just a slow and steady incline. And once that $200 price hit, that was it. It was off to the races. It slowly continued even higher. Then momentum build. We talk about that FOMO. We talk about everybody thinking when AMC gets back to the $55, $65 range, all the FOMO that's going to enter, all the day traders that are going to pile into this, everybody that wants to squeeze every last bit out of it, ran all this up into consecutive halts. 1, 2, 3. I mean, I can't even count. It's 5 or 6 halts. And it just continued to move higher and higher from 200 all the way to 550 in about an hour and 14 minutes. An hour and 14 minutes. That's a pretty good size, hefty move. And it's going to take a little bit of time once some of the dust begins to settle before we can find out what the accurate number of shorts exiting this position was. We might already know how many shorts were in this position, how heavily it was shorted, but just to see how many exited this position, because a lot of times when you have a parabolic move, as you can see, 545, it settled all the way down to 357, still up over 100% on the day. But naturally, when parabolic moves, it's going to come back and pull down a little bit. So shorts, like I said, it'll just be interesting to see how many shorts actually exited, and if there is potential for another move tomorrow, because it hung around up over 100% today. Now, a couple differences with Avis versus AMC is the float. That's probably the number one difference. This float here is 65 million versus about 500 million. So we're almost at, let's say 12% of the float, which does make a difference when it comes to the momentum and how easily and quickly a stock can move in either direction. However, AMC has an exuberant amount more of shorts in this than Avis did. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind going forward. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see what Adam Aron and what the company reports for their earnings, especially as the consensus and analysts are expecting it to be obviously an increase year over year. That's a given, but just to see exactly where they stand and what's going to be more important is the guidance that they give. Where is the outlook going? How is their debt changing? Okay, any bit of guidance that gets away from their play, it's the same thing. It's just like if our play were to end, we would exit, which it has not. When the shorts play, when their play ends, they're going to exit their positions. I also want to point this out as it was brought to my attention. This was TD Ameritrade right here, with increased margin requirements and trading strategy limits. Okay, for Avis stock, this is the Trump stock as well, and you still have AMC on here and GameStop as well, which is a little bit weird. I would say weird, but TD Ameritrade is a big dog. It isn't like a Robinhood, okay, or even a Webull. TD Ameritrade is a big dog, and they did have some restrictions on AMC, and it just became 100% marginal, which means if my day trading, if I have $50,000 in my account, my day trading power is 200,000. But on certain stocks like this, I can't buy 150,000 or 200,000 worth of shares. I can only stick to my cash. So there wasn't any limit that you couldn't buy it. You just couldn't buy it on margin. Like I said, TD Ameritrade is a big dog. So it'll be interesting to see how Avis opens up tomorrow. Because like I said, it's still held and it hasn't broken down yet. It's holding around that $350 level. Didn't get much action happening after hours. Had a little bit of a pop. I believe it got to about 370, 372 as I started making this video. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see how this opens. And I hope this gets you a little bit pumped for AMC, because this is exactly how it happens. All right. Once it gets piled in, momentum, their play changes. That's it. It's off to the races. And think about this. If you watched Avis today, if you watched, ticker symbol CAR, or you picked up on it, that's great. But answer this, to yourself. It's probably the first time that you've thought about this stock. You've looked at this chart. I mean, everybody knows the company, but I'm talking about look at this chart, played this chart, okay, heard it talked about on Reddit or heard it brought up on Twitter. Probably one of the first times, if not the first time for many of you watching this video. But AMC is a completely different story. AMC is in the back of everyone's minds. Now, it's on the forefront of ours because we're active in this position. However, everybody knows what GameStop did. Everybody saw what AMC did, moving from that $8 to $10 range all the way up to the 70s in just like that, in a matter of 3 days. It's all in the back of their mind. These are what's known as former runners. I go over this, every single day. Whenever we see plays that are gapping or stocks that are gapping, is when it's a former runner, when it's already shown that on news or on catalyst, the stock can run. It's something that is always in the back of your mind, and you're never going to forget it. So AMC is 100% that stock. Everybody knows about it, and everyone's going to have, their ears perked just to see once that momentum gets rolling. So it'll be interesting to see, like I said, the earnings and the guidance that is presented. And once their play changes, see ya. And this is even moving after hours, looking like it's going to try to hang above that $39 level. So guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.